Okay, well, welcome back, guys, to Grow Ahead. Um, with me, Steph. We don't have Nicole this week, but we do have a guest. Welcome, Ryan.
Hey, good to be here.
Ryan's had his own growth stories and different things he's gone through that have challenged him, impacted him, and helped him like just be the person that he is today. So um, we're gonna hear more about Ryan and his fitness journey.
It should be noted that we're cousins also.
Yes, I should mention that.
Yeah. Yeah. So where to begin? I guess my fitness journey probably started about 5 years ago, I want to say. Obviously, you don't like anything else. You don't really know what you're doing kind of when you get into it. But I kind of just went full steam ahead right into it. And kind of with the expectation that I would know or I would figure it out kind of along the way. But I just wanted to kind of get started and get rolling because I mean, it just came to a point where I guess I knew it was time for a change. And what better way to make a change than just to up and make it? So I mean, that's kind of how I got started. I just got sick of, I don't know, just a lot of things that I was doing, habits, people I was hanging around with, foods I was eating, you know, all that stuff. I'm sure a lot of people can relate. So,
Was there anything like going on within you or maybe at the time that you started that really just made you go, yeah, this is what I want to do?
um, no, not from the beginning, not till like to the point that I'm at now, because I just got my um, personal trainer certification at the end of January. Getting that was quite the feat. I mean, with everything COVID related in 2020 is when I started that. And then my wife was pregnant, I think about 5 months when I started. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to bang this out, in, 4 months and be done with it. And the baby will be here and everything will be good. Obviously, that didn't quite happen. It took a lot longer. And, you know, the baby was a real challenge in trying to get it. But it ended up taking me probably like 9 months. So that's where I'm at now. But I mean, when I started, I didn't really have the vision of, I didn't get into it and being like, I'm going to be a personal trainer. That wasn't really my goal. It was kind of just, I needed to make a change. So that was, that was kind of what pushed me.
And through doing that and working out and eating better, um, is that kind of where you wanted to be the personal trainer that you're kind of becoming just going through that process?
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of just like, once you hit one milestone, you're like, oh, I can do that, so then you just kind of, make new goals and hit new milestones. And it's like, okay, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, or it wasn't. I mean, it was always difficult. It was hard. It should be hard, because then it's worth it. But um, it's just kind of like one thing after another, and it kind of helps build your confidence. And I started to see, like, I'm pretty good at some of this stuff, and like I don't just like dabble in it. I kind of really go for it, and when I do that, I do pretty well at it. So it's like, well, let's see how far this thing can kind of go. And um, and then from there, I think I just kind of developed more of a like a love for it and started adapting it into my lifestyle.
So you and I have talked about motivation a little bit, and do you think there's a difference between motivation and passion, or do you think the two can kind of coincide?
um I think they're two different things for sure. I mean, you can, I don't know, it's almost like you can be passionate about something, which usually implies that you have some sort of a talent for it as well. So I think it's almost, becomes a little bit easier. And then I guess motivation, I don't know. I guess what I always tell people about motivation is that it fades, so I would probably want to make more of a comparison between motivation and discipline. And then I think after the motivation is gone, that's when the discipline kicks in. And that's kind of where you truly see, you know, if you do have a passion for something. Because if you do, your discipline will help push you towards that. Whereas if you're just, motivated, watching the videos and everything for a couple weeks, eventually I think that kind of drops off.
So, what advice would you give to somebody when trying to implement discipline and trying to get on the right path?
Uh, do all the shit that you don't like to do. No, but I mean, that's a big part of it is just, I guess, kind of figuring out how to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And then, it's kind of like my own journey where it's like, well, okay, I was able to do this. What else can I do? I kind of had that same mindset towards the uncomfortable stuff as well. So it's like, you know what? I don't want to work out today. So, like, let's get real David Goggins like, and let's go 5 miles in the rain, of course, and it's like, okay, well, I did that. That was uncomfortable, kind of sucked, but I know that I can do that now. So let's keep doing it. And it just kind of perpetuates itself, I think.
Do you think like pushing yourself and putting yourself through like obstacles and challenges is ultimately what keeps you going in terms of just experiencing different things and learning different things?
Partially. I mean, it's definitely a driving factor, I guess you could say. Um, I guess I have a few different things that kind of push me, I guess, in terms of like trying to hit goals or be the person that I want to be. Um, Number one is like, yeah, that, like what you said, that doing the hard things and whatever. I think the biggest thing for me that pushes me is is like, um, well, I guess I found out what like my why is, and I know if some people don't really know what the hell I'm talking about. I mean, there's lots of videos and stuff about it, but like the more you get into like this motivational mindset, you kind of start searching for things to help motivate you and keep motivating you, and you'll probably stumble upon that. But I mean, it's just the thing that pushes you when you can't push yourself, almost, is how I would describe it. And it was no easy task finding it for myself. I kind of knew that it was out there. I didn't know what it was at first, but I knew that like the constant like working towards it, it would eventually be like a catalyst to help me discover what it was. So like the why was a huge thing, and it still remains a huge thing that pushes me. Um, I don't know if I want to go too in depth on what exactly it is, because I think it should be a pretty personal thing for people. But I mean, that's the biggest motivating factor. And then I think the second one on top of that, if I'm being honest, is I mean, at this point, I'm going to be 35 in a month, and I feel like a lot of my 20s were kind of wasted, maybe even part of the early 30s. So it's like I'm almost like playing catch up, like I'm trying to make up for lost time, basically. Um, but I don't let that I don't like dwell on that either. It's not like I dwell on the past or the things that I fucked up or whatever. But I mean, it's always present, it's always there. And it always it's like a reminder basically to keep me on track and, you know, remind me of what I don't want to be. And then I use my why to push me towards what I do want to be.
Yeah. And it's a lot about what Simon Sinek says too, the finding your why. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, and I think that is important just because, there's a point to the reason you wake up every day. I mean, you don't just do it just because. I mean, there's a
Right.
driving factor deeper down.
Yeah. And it's a thing too that I like as I start to get more clients with personal training, like I let them know up front. That's kind of a thing that I'm interested in, the mental part, the emotional part. Like, so I'm an open book when it comes to that. And I try to discuss the why with them. And a lot of people, it's like, obviously people who are parents and have kids, their why obviously is, their kids. That's a big part of it. But I always try to emphasize, maybe dig a little bit deeper past that, because there's probably going to be a little bit more that's even more personal, just you alone. I mean, the kids thing, that's huge, but I mean, if you really sit down and think about it and focus on it, you'll probably find a little bit deeper inside there too.
Right. And I think, more people should implement, the mental side of it and, show what that actually means and looks like. Just because
Mhm.
so many people, it's not just, hey, I'm overweight or hey, whatever. Sometimes people are in the state that they're in due to so many other things that like no one knows anything about.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think. I mean, and it's not. Yeah, the physical part and the getting in shape part, like that's a huge part of it. But it's not the only part. But I think like once you start, I think that's probably the easiest point to start at. It's because it's like, well, you look in the mirror and you're 20 pounds overweight, 50 pounds overweight, whatever it is, and you're like, well, I'm sick of this, so I want to change it. And then you start seeing positive results, and then it kind of trickles into, it's like I said, what other parts can I change? And that's like the part that's really interesting, because like as you keep going, it's like you find that the people you talk to are different. The the books that you read are different. Sometimes the music you listen to is different. All the stuff that is being input starts to kind of change. And I think that's a like that was a pretty big important thing with me too. It's like, I just kind of focused on me and what I really liked, and kind of eliminated all the bullshit really. And it just really helped. Like I said, like I don't really follow anybody on Facebook anymore. I don't do like social media. It's like I'm far too busy with other things. So it's kind of cool. It's almost like freeing in a sense.
Yeah. And, especially if, you're growing and moving in different directions and stuff, and, people or things don't, serve you in a positive way or make you feel a certain way anymore. Like, it's good that you're involved in other things that, make you feel that way.
Yeah, for sure.
So, how would you describe, like, what's your definition of growth? Like, in any way?
Um, that's a good question. um, I would say just getting to a point where you're comfortable, maybe pushing yourself past perceived boundaries. I mean, be it with whatever, physical stuff. I mean, getting out of your comfort zone, um, doing things like this for example, for me, is a little bit challenging, but I mean, it's cool. I mean, it's something different, and it's something that will probably benefit me, and it's just another thing that I can hang on the list of accomplishments, sort of thing. So yeah, just really kind of pushing yourself to find out who you really are. I think that's what it is, and doing that through difficult, challenging struggles.
Yeah. And I
What do
agree.
you What do you think?
Um, I look at growth in like just so many different ways. And I think when people are first starting their journey, they think it's going to be like an upward, scale that's just going to go up. And it's not like, there's going
Right.
to be some days you don't want to work out. You don't even want to, get ready for the day. Like you're just not feeling it. And like you said, motivation fades. So
Mm,
yeah, for sure you're gonna have days where, you're just not gonna be in that mind to just, conquer things or whatever. But like you said, with discipline and like training yourself, like, hey, like, we gotta do this
yeah.
eventually, with consistency and everything else, um, you can go farther than, you even think you can go. And through those experiences, I think you grow and learn. And as you're moving through different stages, even, it's crazy.
Yeah. And I think those days that you're talking about are more numerous than not. I mean, even now, still, I still have those days all the time. But I mean, it almost becomes part of your identity when you can push through them, and it's just like that's what I do. I go to work when the work gets hard, kind of thing. And you know, it's not always going to be a grand slam every day, but you're still doing the work, and that kind of gives you a sense of like pride in yourself, so then that you can tackle it the next day and the next day, and it's just like almost some days it's like going through the motions, but it's like, so what, I just go through the motions and do it, because I mean you're just going to go further than you would if you just sat idly.
I agree. And taking your emotions out of certain things and situations also sounds like, painful to some people, but, you in some situations have to, just because you're holding on to this part of the situation or whatever you're going through. But like, in order to move forward, you have to go a different direction. So
Yeah.
sometimes you have to take the emotion out of it and just, you have to think about, like, what's going to be good for you going forward.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think I early on I definitely kind of struggled with, because like I set my sights on something. I was like, my wife and I would joke. She's like, "Man, you're like a robot, like not even like a real person when you like push like that." So it that's definitely true, but it's also at the same time a little bit of a trap that you can fall in if you're not careful. I definitely got close to falling into that a few times. So I mean, you just got to keep things in perspective, and I mean it's all about balance too, right? I mean, knowing what your priorities are, and doing what's best that suits those priorities.
Right.
It's
And
like, no, I'm
oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's kind of like with this business that I'm starting or whatever. That's awesome, and it's a passion. But yeah, is it pretty high on the list of my passions? Yeah, but is it my priority? No. So you know that's obviously my family. I want to be a good dad and a husband. That's number one for me. So I just always have to keep in the back of my mind never to let the other things get in the way. Keep number two at number two, and it gets the attention that it gets at number two, and we'll do the best that we can with that. And it's not downplaying it at all, but it's just knowing where your priorities lie. And once those kind of get jumbled up, I think is when people kind of get in trouble.
I think you're right about that, though, because when people don't know what their priorities are, or I don't know, especially with bad habits and things,
Mhm. I know about those.
it's, like diving in deeper into those things instead of, you know, trying to find another outlet or trying to find another way to grow. And I think a lot of people get mixed up in that, I can do it myself, like I'm good, I'm
Yeah.
whatever. And sometimes, it's hard to admit that, you are struggling or you don't have it. And I think that's a big step in growth as well.
Yeah. And I mean, I think another thing too is, recognizing that fear and failure are not necessarily bad things. It's, yeah, I'm still pretty fearful of like these things that I embark on, especially with this business. Like, what the hell do I know? I didn't go to school for anything like that. Being a business owner or a trainer or whatever, it's just all kind of like, it's just is what it is and it's what I'm doing. But I mean, it's like, I'm not afraid of failing at it. I'm really not. It's just, I, I don't know. I just feel like I've done enough failing in the past and treated it the wrong way that I know, how not to treat it. So if I fail now, it's more of just a learning opportunity than anything. And, just move on to the next thing, I guess. Not that I want to fail at it, but,
Right, right. But yeah, I think so many people are afraid to try because they think, if I fail or whatever, that's it. But it's not, like you
right,
said, you can take something from that and move forward with that.
right. Yeah, I heard a interesting, I guess, analogy about that. And in terms of like lifting weights or whatever, it's like, somebody's like, oh man, I can never get to 10 reps or whatever. And it's like, I'm such a failure. He's like, well, why? He's like, isn't that the point, to go until failure? And then that's like how you build muscle and how you get strong. You have to push yourself to that point so you can do it again.
And it's just like, you can't you can't deadlift 500 pounds your first day. Like that's just
Right.
unrealistic.
Yeah.
So, you can't go all in day one. Like it's gonna take time.
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, Yeah. Start where you are with what you have, because what you have is plenty. I believe Eric Thomas said that. I think you're a fan of him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in terms of opportunities and what people see versus what they don't see, and motivation, how do you feel about that?
Um, like what people see me doing? Are you asking?
Doing or just, I guess, what you see, like in different, like what you see as opportunities that maybe other people don't.
Hmm. Um, I mean, I don't know. I kind of like those things that are tougher to find and like hidden in the shadows in terms of opportunities. Like, um, not to be like up on my high horse or anything, but like when all this COVID stuff started happening and everybody started locking themselves in their bathrooms and running out of fear or whatever people did, I was like, man, this is like, yeah, it sucks, like a few things are going to be closed, but like I felt like a lot of shit was going to start opening up for me, and I knew a lot of people would be kind of slacking or holding back during that time. So I mean, like 2020 was probably honestly my best year, just because I feel like I took advantage of those things that other people didn't want to take advantage of, or I used my time in ways that wasn't really being used, like that other people were using. It's like, oh yeah, I can't go to the gym. That sucks. I might as well just sit home and get a pizza. Well, it's like, no, like I would just run all the time. Like I preferred to run. I came to a point where I like preferred to like run in the rain or in thunderstorms or whatever. It's like, why? Because nobody's out there doing it. So it's like it has to pay off at some point. It was an opportunity, and even if it was just a stupid thing like that, like it was a mental opportunity for myself, to be like, well, I can handle this when nobody else is handling it, so what else can I handle, kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, some of the, bad things that happen to us or things that people look at as, um, unfortunate, you can find something to take out of that and use it, to help fuel you and use it to, um, go somewhere and
Hmm.
do whatever it is that you're passionate about doing.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, most of my analogies, I realize, are pretty like related to physical stuff, but I mean the same could be true of, I guess, anything in life, like even the harder things, like I lost my job or I lost my house or whatever. It's like you have to you just kind of have to retrain your brain to think of it in a different way, you know. Um, and one thing that I really got into that I kind of failed to mention, especially this past year, has been like studying Stoicism a lot. Um, so that has been like super helpful. And I guess a lot of people think, well, that sounds like pretty boring or whatever, but um, it definitely isn't. I mean, in a nutshell, I guess it can just be described as not not just taking things at face value and settling for them. It's you know things happen to you. It's how you react. It's not those things that determine your happiness or anything like that. It's you. It's and it's your reaction to them. So I mean that's been huge in terms of setting up opportunities and just kind of seeing things differently. It's like I don't get as angry anymore. I don't get as pissed off at things anymore, and that's a relief.
Yeah, and I think that's great that you mentioned that because I was gonna actually ask you about that. But
Nice.
yeah,
Read your mind.
but yeah, like same way. Like I don't know, I find all that stuff interesting, and everyone else is like, that's boring. Like, but I don't know. It's just it's real. It's I don't know. It's honest. It's raw. It's what it is. Like I don't know. And
Yeah.
these things can be applied to different scenarios in life, and I don't know. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever, do you listen to any podcasts or have you read anything about like Stoicism?
I follow a few pages, but I haven't like watched anything on it.
Yeah. I definitely recommend The Daily Stoic with Ryan Holiday. Super cool. I listen to it literally every single day on my ride to work because they're short. They're like, 5 to 8 minutes long or whatever. And then like once a week, there's a cool interview with somebody somewhat famous. But um, yeah, that's a good place to start. And all of his books are they were super helpful for me, especially the obstacles, the way is a good one, and stillness is the key, ego is the enemy. But it's super smart, insightful guy. So highly recommend check them out.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check it out. Um, so throughout this journey and just in your life, is there anyone that just it could be somebody you've met, somebody you haven't, that inspires you to keep going, to do more, to be the person that you are?
Oh, there's lots. Um, I actually wrote up a list, and I recommend it to clients to write up a list um, of those people who've inspired them, and they can be as stupid as like Rocky from the movie, because he's on my list. But I mean, anything helps, right? I mean,
Yeah,
so yeah, there's a lot of people. I mean, and it ranges from authors like Hemingway is a big one for me. Fitness guys like CT Fletcher, David Goggins, those are all big ones for me. Um, who else? Fictional characters like Rocky, that's a good one. Um, um, and then obviously, I mean, my wife is a pretty big one for me. She inspires and pushes me every day, so she's probably top of the list. Um, but there's a ton. Jordan Peterson, he's a big one. Tim Ferriss, um, even like people from like metal bands. Randy Blythe from Lamb of God. He's pretty inspiring if you've ever read his book. I mean, he went through certainly his amount of troubles, and I mean, anybody that can really overcome anything difficult or that was setting them back in their lives and change themselves. I mean, it could be the guy down the street, but if he did that, yeah, sure, he's an inspiration to me too.
so how do you feel about people in general, when let's say they did have a bad past, they did things, they weren't proud of, whatever, but they have changed and they're a different person. But,
Hmm.
people want to look back and see, like, point out things like, oh, you were this person 10 years ago. Like, how
Yeah.
do you feel about that kind of mentality?
Uh, Kind of scared because I feel like I would be a person that would fit under that classification, especially 10 years ago. There's a lot of stupid shit that I did, and I'm sure a lot of people dislike me very much for it. I actually think about that a lot now. I mean, I know I can't change it, and I mean, you shouldn't really regret too much of your past, I don't think. But should I have done some things differently or treated some people differently? Yeah, for sure. So I try not to be overly judgmental about people like that because I know that it is possible to change. I mean, I think I have done that. I don't think I'm 100% there yet. Um, but I mean, I will keep going. It's just the people that I'm skeptical of are the people who, I mean, why are they changing? Do they have the right reasons for changing? Is it just because they want to look good? So they just post a bunch of positive shit. Uh, the quotes and everything. Like to some people that like me that means something, and I would share that kind of stuff because like I thought it was good and helpful, and I wanted it to help somebody. But then there's other people who are like, well, this, that, and the other, and it's like, well, are you really sincere in what you're doing? So I mean, you just have to try to look for the sincerity and the change. And I think I think that's a pretty easy thing to see, honestly. You can kind of read through people's bullshit, if you try.
Right. And it's funny that you brought that up about the quotes and posting, positive things because, there are people that take it as like, oh, they must think blah, 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 or they're
Yeah.
better than, even in that way. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, some
Or
people
they're like, oh, look at
genuinely
this,
like
like,
quotes.
yeah, they're like, look at this born again guy or whatever. It's like, I remember getting hammered with him 5 years ago and like he did this and that. It's like, it can't be true. It's like, life goes on, man. It is, it is. So deal with it.
Right. It's just crazy. But yeah, I mean, like, I'm always here for the quotes.
Yeah, good. Me too. I'm a sucker for him.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So I guess I apologize because I haven't listened to all of your guys' podcasts yet. I have listened to some at work. Um, I was listening to the one about what was it called? It was about this kind of ties into like the people changing and stuff like the is it like the victim mentality type person. What was
Yeah.
that? What was the episode? Yeah, I thought that one was pretty interesting. So good job on that one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even that might even tie in with like the toxic people episode. And
Yeah. Oh, toxic people. Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, like, and sometimes it's like the things people say or do or whatever have nothing to actually do with you, and it's their own growth and things they're going through that are just being projected onto you.
Right. And I think a lot of that is those people are playing the victim, and they have that entitlement mindset. And honestly, I mean, that's one part I can spill the beans about my why is that I I saw that kind of creeping into my own personality, and I saw that from other people that I was close to, and I kind of wanted to be the end of the road for that, so to speak. Uh, Almost in doing so, like changing the course of my own family. You know what I mean? And I mean, I've been told it's a pretty lofty goal because it's almost like an overhaul of your personality. But I felt it was necessary, and that's kind of part of my why. I don't want um, I don't want those behaviors instilled like in my son. I don't want him to see that, because I don't. That's like not a necessary thing to have. So
Right. And I think just like having negative people or toxic people around and stuff, like, I don't know, it makes, and you're involved in it, it kind of, it's hard not to try and almost fall into that just because you're around them all the time.
hmm
So I think when you do decide to like break that and be like, that's enough, I'm not following that direction or whatever, it's not easy. And, you're used to certain things or people or whatever, even if, you know, you've known them for X amount of time, like if
yeah,
their behavior doesn't jive with yours, at some point you
right.
gotta go, what do I want?
Yeah, 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 and it can be a little bit of a foreign, lonely road, I guess. But I mean, if like sincerity, if you think that that's important and you're sincere about it, I mean, I don't think it's a wrong thing to do. You know, I think it's a pretty aware thing to do, honestly.
And I think a lot of people are, scared to do that too, just like anything else with growth, just because it is uncomfortable. And, it would be like you said, sometimes it's lonely and,
Mhm.
and that's to be expected. I mean, not everyone's going to follow that same path.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, crazy, crazy how things change and ebb and flow, I guess, over the course of even a short time, 5, 10 years. It's crazy what you can get sucked into, and it's crazy how much you can change. It's kind of the choice is yours kind of thing.
Yeah. And, I think that about a lot of things. Like, you know, even when somebody says this person's treating me bad or this person, blah, blah, like at the end of the day, you can choose to be around them or, not be around them and have them in your life. It's about how you want to feel at the end of the day.
Yeah. See, stoicism. It's how you react.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Now, if only more people would figure that out, I think things would be a little bit easier. But
Yeah, I just, and that's funny that mentioned that even just because we just had our nature versus nurture episode and we were talking about that too, even just how, people are based on their environment, how people can change based on their, what there is around them and everything. And, the
mhm.
choice is yours every day.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, even if your environment doesn't necessarily, like your physical environment doesn't necessarily change all that much, I feel like that just by your outlook, you can change your mental landscape, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I forgot who I was listening to, but they're like, um, maybe it was Jordan Peterson, where he's like, I was at a restaurant and some busboy came up to me or whatever, and he's like, "Man, I really enjoy your stuff. I really feel like I'm doing well. I'm a busboy now, and this and that." And he's like, "Well, some people would think, well, you're just a busboy. Like, what is that? It's like, but you don't know. He might have been homeless 6 months ago, and then he might have moved to, taking out the garbage one night a week, and now he's set himself up to actually work inside of a restaurant, be a busboy. And it's like, as long as your aim and your trajectory is in a positive, it's aligned positively and upward. I mean, who's to say that that isn't a good position for him? And it's not a permanent position either. As long as you have that, and your, I guess, your mental landscape is, you know has a positive trajectory, then I think that's kind of all you really need to succeed. You just need to have the discipline to follow that trajectory.
Yeah, and I've seen people do that too, just in, out in public, whatever. And I don't know, like I think people put too much of their opinion, or I guess like how they would do certain things or look at things, into other people's lives or whatever. And just because, that's not your path doesn't mean that that's not good for this guy, working at a restaurant.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But I think those people that, talk negatively or, you know, don't understand, like why you'd be happy to work at a restaurant, probably aren't worth your time anyway.
No, definitely not. I mean, I think they focus more on they just seek out things that make them pissed off or sad or unhappy, you know? I mean, it's almost like second nature at that point, and it's kind of sad.
So how do you feel about like law of attraction? Do you think that plays any role in things?
Mm, I don't know. I've never really like I get it. Um, I've never really like gotten to the point of being like that interested in it though, right? I mean, isn't that like what's that thing, The Secret or whatever? Is that
Yeah.
that? Yeah. I mean, it's good and all. It's if anything, I think it's I don't know. I would think that that type of mindset is almost like a starting point, um, in the sense that it's like, well, if you believe it, you can achieve it, kind of thing. It's like, well, that's not necessarily true because like you forget the important part. It's like you have to work. Like the action part, I think, is more important. I mean, it's good to get yourself mentally positive, like a positive alignment mentally, but to completely follow that, I think you're kind of shortchanging yourself and you're kind of skipping out on the most important part. Um, I mean, yeah, I mean, just thinking positively and thinking that something good will happen to you won't necessarily make it. So,
Right. Um, no, it made me think of that because of what you had said about, if somebody's always looking for something to be sad about or angry about or whatever.
uh,
And, with law of attraction, thoughts become things. And if you're always thinking about like negative stuff or whatever, you're going to see it more because that's, what you're looking for.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I would agree with that. I think it works. It seems to work a little bit better for the negative stuff. Like the negative stuff really sticks, I think, a little bit, a little bit more than the positive stuff. But I mean, to an extent, I think that that is true. I mean, you do have to align yourself, to whatever direction you want to go positively or negatively. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but I mean, once you do, I mean, yeah, you kind of, uh, it's just another way of kind of taking aim at something, I think.
So, how big do you think it is for people to like manage their emotions and things when growing, like not being reactive?
Um, at first, I would have said not that important, but now I think it's pretty, I think it's quite important, actually. Um, I think a lot of times, especially when I was, younger, or even just starting off on my own journey, I guess, of becoming better, that was one thing that, looking back, it was is a pretty big detriment, like to get angry so something or to get really frustrated right off the bat, and I would tell myself too. Then it's like, well, like if you're not, if you don't have a lot of emotion about it, then maybe you're not passionate about it or something, and that's not necessarily true. I mean, like you need to learn how to really like harness your emotions and use them for like the best possible way, or, best possible cause that you can find for them. It doesn't mean like just because you don't like fly off the handle when somebody cuts you off, it's not like you don't care that he put your life in danger. It's like think it through first, and figure out how you are going to react to it to make it a better situation. So now I think it's definitely pretty important.
Well, and it's crazy what like 5 or 10 seconds of, thinking about something before you do it, actually helps.
Yeah, or saying.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
And delivery too is just key because like if you're talking to somebody and you want them to do something for you or something and you come off like angry and rude, do you think they're going to do it for you?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that has been a pretty big helpful change that I've made is like, I guess I kind of figured out about myself. I was, I don't know, I guess pretty mad or angry about something. I still don't know all of what is about. I know some of it, but it's like I would just use that and for no reason really. It's like this useless, directionless anger is just it was a big personal detriment of mine, and I think I've kind of patched that part up, and it just seems just things just seem a lot better now. Like recognizing that and fixing it.
And I think even Nicole had mentioned it in one of our past episodes, just, the negative effects stress has on you as a person, just, um, you know, illnesses all the time or, not feeling good or being sluggish or, having all these issues over being angry or stressed out. And for what?
Mhm. But then again, it's kind of like we said, like what can you get from those things? Like that if that's your struggle, then that's your struggle. I mean, you're a pretty perfect example of that, right? I mean, you had a lot of health issues, and you could have easily thrown in the towel and said, well, this isn't fair. Why is this happening to me over and over again? But I don't think you did because you're sitting here right now. So it's just like, this is it sucks. It's a really hard thing to do, especially when, and I'm sure especially when you're, you know, physically ill or sick or whatever.
Yeah, it is
But
tough, just
if you
because,
can rise
yeah,
above it, I don't think you're way better because of it.
yeah. And I think sometimes, like I said, earlier, going through tough times or stuff that is uncomfortable, is sometimes the best thing that could happen to you.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, for sure.
I was asking if there were any, besides the Stoic readings and podcasts, if there was any other like books or things that you've read that have motivated you that you thought maybe would motivate someone else.
Uh, yeah, there's a lot. Actually, reading is one of the probably the biggest things that got me into wanting to change, even more than like it probably started before the physical stuff. Um, but yeah, there's a ton. Let's see. Obviously, Goggins' book "Can't Hurt Me" is a good one. Probably my favorite book of all time, "The Old Man and the Sea." I recommend that. All the ones that I previously said, the Ryan Holiday books, those are all awesome. Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. Um, Jocko Willink, he did a book called Extreme Ownership, and he's got a lot of books. They're actually all really good. Um, Man's Search for Meaning, that's a really good one by Viktor Frankl. He was in the Holocaust in a concentration camp, so it's basically just about not letting the circumstances you're in dictate your happiness or how you live. Then there's a book that was really good. He was a trainer for Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. It's actually called Relentless. So that was a big one for me.
So, um, having to do with your fitness training and what you're trying to accomplish. How did you come up with your name?
Honestly, that book was kind of a, I kind of stole it from there. Plus, it's just how I felt. I've been doing things, the last couple of years here. It's a bit exhausting at times, but I don't know. It's been worth it. The more I put in, it seems the more I get out. I mean, I'm tired every day, but oh well. I mean, that's, I guess, a good problem to have. Plus, I don't know. It just sounded cool. And I kind of set up the logo to look kind of like a metal band. So I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I like the logo a lot. That's like the
Thanks.
first thing I noticed.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, we made it ourselves, like just cut and pasting for a few hours. So it was free, but it was worth it.
It's cool though, because then you get to be creative and it comes out, the way you want it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, is there any fitness advice at the top of your mind that you would give to somebody first starting out? Maybe, they've never worked out, they don't know where to start.
Get your diet in check first. First and foremost. Most people know the crappy foods that they eat, but they just continue to eat them. I mean, I know it's hard to put them down, but that's it's just going to help you so much. So diet is the number one thing. I think, I mean, anybody can go to the gym for an hour a day, but the other 23, that's going to kind of catch up to you. Um, um, and then just, I don't know. I mean, what do they say? Comparison is the thief of joy, right? I mean, so the only person you really have to worry about is the person who you see in the mirror. Don't be afraid of getting out there or looking stupid or sweating too much or breathing hard or anything like that. Going to a gym that you're not comfortable in, it's like just get up and do it. Get uncomfortable or get comfortable being uncomfortable, and don't worry about anybody else because chances are half the people around you don't know what the hell they're doing anyways. So I would say that's a big one, and just um, figure out your why. You know, because once the initial um, craziness of it all kind of fades and it's time to settle into a routine and dig in, that's going to be the thing that pushes you the most. I'd say
Oh,
those are kind of the big three for me anyways.
so do you want to say the name of your Instagram account so people can follow, maybe get some fitness in with you?
Yeah, for sure. Relentless Fitness MKE is where I'm at on Instagram. It's still in its kind of early stages, so sorry there's not a whole lot of content. Um, I will be starting a Facebook page and hopefully a website in the very near future. I actually had a pretty crazy day today. I went and got like a bunch of pictures and stuff taken for all the socials and the website. So yeah, that was another uncomfortable thing because I don't really like having my pictures taken, but for a good cause and all. But yeah, we'll have a website soon. Facebook will be even sooner. And then so far it's just the Instagram stuff at the moment, but taking clients.
Yeah, give Ryan a follow if you're looking for fitness advice or just like what he posts, because I like what he posts.
Thank you.
Alrighty, well, it was nice chatting with you.
For
And
sure.
this is Ryan is our second guest now. Um, and hopefully he comes back.
Yeah, for sure. Just let me know. I'd be happy to come back. I'm sure we'll have more to the second time around and it won't be as awkward and I'll be a little bit better.
Right, right. And we'll have
Yeah.
Nicole too.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, we have. So then we definitely have to do a second one.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being our second guest, Ryan.
Yeah, no problem. And congrats on your whole podcast and everything. I'm glad you guys are doing it, man. It's cool to see people who just do what they want to do.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Alrighty, guys. Well, that was our episode with Ryan. Sorry that you couldn't see it with Nicole. We are going to have some more guests in the near future. And if you haven't followed us on Spotify, Anchor, and we are now on Apple Podcasts, which is exciting, go ahead and do that so we know you're listening. Um, and until next time, have courage to grow through life and not just go through life. Bye, guys.